Cobus van der Merwe and Jacques de Villiers, the two men behind Strandveld Food, this beautiful recipe book, are joining me in studio, and they're going to introduce us to what we can expect in these pages. Hello.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Well, and you?
Good, thank you. Now, this is an absolutely stunning recipe book, and it's not only a recipe book, there's some beautiful photography from you, Jacques.
Thanks.
Now, the first thing I want to ask is, when you're reading the introduction, you are introduced as a modern-day hunter-gatherer. What does that mean?
Well, we go out I go out and collect a lot of my ingredients from the wild, much like I think the early inhabitants on the West Coast would have done some years ago. So it's I suppose it's just because I'm using what's available locally and from the veld. So.
Wow! Now it looks absolutely delicious. Jacques, did you eat everything you photographed?
I ate absolutely everything I photographed. It was simply, as Hemingway said, a movable feast. So some people think that you do all sorts of tricks with food, but there's none involved. Yeah. It's just straightforward food photography and eating afterwards.
I think for both of us it was quite important to show real food, and that's not too tampered with, in many cases we actually did eat the very plate that was photographed.
Yeah.
The same when I used to write my food blog for 24.com way back. I would make a point of photographing an actual plate of food that somebody's going to eat, whether it's on service going out to the table in the restaurant, it's not overly styled, inedible, but beautifully looking food. It's actual, real food.
It's crazy how much some of the food you see that does get photographed is so tampered with.
Yeah.
So it's very refreshing to hear that this is food that you guys actually ate. Now, I want to talk about the seasons. We move from season to season in the book. Why did you decide to do it like that?
The seasons on the West Coast happen, the seasonal changes and the metamorphosis is really dramatic. I live in a semi-desert, and in winter it's a beautifully lush, edible, green coastline. So I really wanted to capture that very visually, and that's why Jacques came up from Cape Town religiously on a weekly basis to try to help me sort of capture, the changes in the landscape and the wild ingredients that become available in winter that were not there in summer. And I really wanted the reader to be able to experience that. So that's why we have all these double-page spreads of beautiful landscapes and textures in the veld. And
How did you choose what landscapes you were going to photograph? How many pictures did you actually have to siphon through to get the right ones for this book?
We shot far more than is in the book.
I can
so
imagine.
There are quite a few landscapes that sadly had to be culled. But we kind of walked around and on the day sort of decided which landscapes we were going to shoot, where we were at that time. So it was quite an organic process. We didn't plan very much beforehand. We just went out and captured it somehow.
Yeah, so I would also pick up the phone and tell Jacques that I've seen something's in flower, or the veldkool season has started, and then he says, okay, great, I'll come up and let's shoot it. And so we captured everything in real time, so to speak. It took an entire year.
Wow. Now, have you always been a local food enthusiast?
To me it's important to kind of capture a sense of time and place when you present food. And when I arrived in Paternoster, it's a very casual setting where I cook. My restaurant is tiny and it's outside in a rustic little garden. But I wanted the food to kind of give people a sense of place and, almost have it be a plate that you can't eat anywhere else in the world. And the only way to do that is to really, pick what is growing around you. That's how you truly taste the region.
Jacques, this is going to be a hard question for you. What are some of your most memorable dishes from the book?
I think the boerboek that he prepared was for me quite special. I think goat's meat is not that well known in the Western Cape especially, and you don't get. It's very difficult to get goat in the Western Cape, and that to me was a really excellent recipe.
Cobus, can you tell us more about that recipe?
It's a very simple recipe. So it's goat, it's like a deboned leg of goat, which is cooked on the open fire on the indirect method, and then it's served with savoury butter made with bokkoms, the dried salted dried fish, and some wild herbs, and some marinated wild greens.
Oh my gosh, you're making me hungry. Now, what's one of your favorite recipes in the book? If that's not too hard for you to answer.
I have lots of favorites. I think one of the first one that comes to mind is probably mosselbank at low tide, which is a dish where I try to use ingredients that grow in one locale, and I paired that with seasonal fruits. In summer it would be something like watermelon, or in winter it would be pear. And then just combining all the herbs and seaweeds that I found in this area called Mosselbank at Paternoster. To me, that's sort of significant in trying to capture a specific moment in time at a specific location. So I'm hoping that my food will move in that direction even more.
Now, both of you are going to the launch for this book tonight in Cape Town. What can people expect when they're going through the pages? Now, we've all seen the book, but our audience hasn't. What do you want them to experience when they're looking through this book?
I'm hoping that they'll be able to be transported to the Saldanha Strandveld for a little bit. And then, there's a little bit of heritage in the book as well. So I'm hoping it would make people proud of their own local ingredients and flavors, but presented in a modern way.
Jack?
Yeah, I think the idea of a photographic book is to make people feel that they experience the area, and if we manage to get that across, then I would say the book is successful.
I was saying earlier, I know I said before we started recording, that it's so beautiful, I would never want to keep it in my kitchen because it will get so dirty. I don't know, maybe I should laminate it or something.
I suppose you could. I've seen some of those like cookbook stands where it's behind perspex, because I think a lot of cookbooks these days are actually visually enticing and beautifully printed and presented books. It's definitely a book that you should be using, but I think it could also be sitting proudly on your coffee table.
Yeah. Now, Cobus, what's next for you?
Well, we're joking that we're working on the third book because we've got so much material and we haven't been able to stop photographing.
It's such fun.
It is a lot of fun.
We just have such a good time working together that we're just carrying on, basically.
Yeah, so hopefully more Strandveld foods in the pipeline.
Oh, well, I'm excited. By the time I'm done this book, you'll have the next one ready for me.
Let's hope.
Great. Thank you both so much for coming in and sharing.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.